Imagine a warm July night in 1937. The air is thick with the heat of summer, and the cityscape is bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight. The world seems at peace, but beneath this tranquil surface, tensions are simmering. On the outskirts of Beijing, a lone Japanese soldier goes missing. This soldier, part of the Imperial Japanese Army, was patrolling near the Marco Polo Bridge, a location of strategic importance. The Marco Polo Bridge, an ancient structure with a rich history, stood quietly under the night sky. It had witnessed centuries of change, but nothing could have prepared it for what was about to unfold. The disappearance of this soldier seemed insignificant at first. A search party was quickly organized and concerned soldiers scoured the area hoping to find their missing comrade. Little did they know, this event would soon become the catalyst for a conflagration. This seemingly minor incident would ignite a conflict that would engulf Asia in flames. The tensions between Japan and China, already strained, would explode into full-scale war. This conflict, known as the Second Sino-Japanese War, would eventually draw the world into another devastating global conflict: World War II. How could a simple disappearance lead to such catastrophic consequences? The answer lies in a complex web of political, economic, and social factors that had been building up for years. The world was already on edge, and this event was the spark that set everything ablaze. The 1930s were a time of economic desperation. The Great Depression had left economies around the world in shambles, and people were struggling to survive. In Japan, this economic hardship fueled a desire for expansion and control over resources. Nationalist fervor was on the rise, not just in Japan, but globally. Countries were turning inward, adopting protectionist policies that only served to heighten tensions. The dangerous ripple effects of these policies created an environment ripe for conflict. As nations built up their military forces and prepared for the possibility of war, the world teetered on the brink. The disappearance of one soldier was all it took to tip the scales, leading to a chain reaction that would change the course of history. Diplomatic efforts to resolve the situation were tense and ultimately unsuccessful. The world watched as negotiations failed and the conflict escalated. Leaders struggled to maintain peace, but the forces driving the world towards war were too powerful to be contained. Declarations of war followed, and the mobilization of troops began. Wartime propaganda filled the airwaves, and the world braced itself for the horrors to come. The disappearance of a single soldier had ignited a fire that would burn for years, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. In the aftermath, the world would reflect on the events that led to such widespread devastation. Rebuilding efforts would begin, and peace treaties would be signed, but the scars of war would remain. The story of the missing soldier serves as a stark reminder of how fragile peace can be and how quickly the world can be plunged into chaos. The seeds of this conflict were sown years earlier, thousands of miles away in the United States. The year was 1930. America, in the throes of the Great Depression, enacted the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. This act, intended to protect American industries, raised tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods. The result? International trade plummeted. Countries retaliated with their own tariffs, creating a global trade war that deepened the Depression's grip. Few countries felt the sting of Smoot-Hawley as acutely as Japan. Resource-poor and reliant on international trade, Japan saw its economy crippled. The need for raw materials, particularly oil and iron, became a matter of national security. Expansionism, fueled by militaristic nationalism, began to appear as the only solution. In 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria, a resource-rich region in northeastern China. This was the first domino to fall, setting the stage for the larger conflict to come. Fast forward to that fateful night in 1937. The world was on the brink of monumental change, and the events that unfolded at the Marco Polo Bridge would become a significant prelude to the larger conflict that was to come. The Marco Polo Bridge, a vital access point to Beijing, was a flashpoint for tensions between Japanese and Chinese forces. This bridge, also known as the Lugu Bridge, had stood for centuries, witnessing countless historical events. But on this particular night, it would become the epicenter of a confrontation that would escalate into a full-blown conflict. The disappearance of Private Kikujiro Shimura, whether a genuine case of being lost or a fabricated pretext, sparked a confrontation. Shimura's absence was immediately noticed, and the Japanese forces quickly suspected foul play. The tension was palpable as both sides tried to ascertain the truth behind his disappearance. Was he truly lost? Or was this a strategic move by the Japanese to justify their aggressive stance? The Japanese, suspecting the Chinese army of foul play, demanded access to the nearby town of Wanping. The Chinese refused. Wanping was a small but strategically significant town, and the Chinese were wary of allowing Japanese forces any further incursion into their territory. The refusal was not just a matter of principle but a strategic decision to prevent further escalation. Both sides reinforced their positions, and the standoff began. The air was thick with tension as soldiers on both sides prepared for the worst. Trenches were dug, weapons were readied, and the night was filled with the sounds of military preparations. This standoff was not just a simple disagreement, it was a prelude to a larger conflict that would soon engulf the region. The events at the Marco Polo Bridge marked the beginning of a series of confrontations that would eventually lead to the full-scale outbreak of the Second Sino-Japanese War. What began as a localized incident quickly escalated. Fueled by years of simmering resentment and driven by strategic ambitions, the Japanese military used the incident as a justification for a full-scale invasion of China. The incident at the Marco Polo Bridge became the spark that ignited the Second Sino-Japanese War. A world ablaze from Nanjing to Pearl Harbor. The war in China raged for 8 brutal years. It saw horrific atrocities such as the Nanjing Massacre, which shocked the world. The conflict also drew in other world powers, ultimately expanding into World War II with Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. Echoes of the past trade wars in the 21st century. In the modern era, trade wars have taken on new dimensions, influenced by globalization, technological advancements, and complex international relations. Unlike the trade disputes of the past, today's conflicts are deeply intertwined with digital economies, intellectual property rights, and cybersecurity concerns. The stakes are higher, and the consequences more far-reaching. The story of the Marco Polo Bridge incident is a stark reminder of how seemingly insignificant events can spiral into global conflicts. This incident, which occurred in 1937, was a small skirmish between Chinese and Japanese troops that escalated into a full-scale war, leading to the Second Sino-Japanese War. It serves as a historical lesson on the fragility of peace and the ease with which misunderstandings can lead to catastrophic outcomes. It also highlights the dangers of protectionism and economic warfare. Protectionist policies such as tariffs and trade barriers can lead to economic downturns, as seen during the Great Depression. These measures, intended to protect domestic industries, often result in retaliatory actions from other nations, creating a vicious cycle of economic decline and political tension. The protests against trade wars reflect the public's awareness of these dangers and their demand for more cooperative international trade policies. Today, as we navigate a world of renewed trade tensions, particularly between the United States and China, we see a complex web of economic interdependence and rivalry. The US-China trade war, which began in 2018, has had significant impacts on global markets, supply chains, and economic growth. Both nations have imposed tariffs on each other's goods, leading to increased costs for businesses and consumers. The negotiations between these two economic giants are closely watched by the world, as their outcomes will shape the future of global trade. The lessons of the past are more relevant than ever. Historical trade wars such as the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 teach us about the unintended consequences of protectionist policies. This act, which raised U.S. tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods, led to a sharp decline in international trade and worsened the Great Depression. By studying these historical events, policymakers can better understand the potential pitfalls of trade restrictions and the importance of maintaining open and fair trade practices. The economic and political choices we make today, just like those made in the 1930s, have far-reaching implications. Decisions on trade policies, tariffs, and international agreements can either foster economic growth and cooperation, or lead to conflict and economic hardship. Modern economic summits and discussions among political leaders are crucial in shaping these decisions. The global community must work together to navigate the complexities of international trade and avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. These choices have the potential to create ripple effects that can lead to unintended and catastrophic consequences. Just as the Marco Polo Bridge incident led to a broader conflict, modern trade wars can escalate beyond economic disputes, affecting political relations and global stability. The interconnectedness of today's world means that the impact of trade policies extends far beyond national borders. It is essential to approach trade negotiations with a long-term perspective, considering not only immediate economic gains, but also the broader implications for international peace and prosperity. The butterfly effect, small choices, global consequences. The disappearance of a single soldier on a bridge near Beijing might seem like a minor historical footnote, yet it serves as a powerful reminder of the interconnectedness of our world and the unintended consequences of our actions. Just as the flap of a butterfly's wings in Brazil can hypothetically set off a tornado in Texas, seemingly insignificant decisions can have far-reaching and devastating consequences. A world on edge. The story of the Marco Polo Bridge incident is not merely a history lesson. It is a cautionary tale about the fragility of peace and the importance of cooperation, understanding, and open dialogue in a world on edge. As we face new challenges and uncertainties in the 21st century, let us remember the lessons of the past and strive to build a more peaceful and interconnected world.